Look at that plant. I want you to know that everything was grown in my garden. Don't touch that plant!
Is it poisonous?
She'll become part of the plant.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Flower Power Garden Hour. I'm your host, Marlene.
And I'm your co-host, Bruce.
And today is our top 10. This is our top 10 episode, but this time we're going to do our top 10 drought-tolerant plants for a tropical look. So remember, in our top 10s, I give my top 10s in that category. Bruce give his top 10 in that category. We'll alternate. I don't know what's on his list. He doesn't know what's on my list. Sometimes we may have matching, overlapping, but sometimes we won't. And in this case, I don't think we will, because this is sort of a broad, of course, all of the top 10s we're going to do are broad, but I'll just explain this topic a little more. So drought tolerant, meaning...
And I would like to say that drought tolerant but tropical is just the greatest, because so many times you look at have the tropical look and you say, well, how much need lots and lots of water, but it doesn't. And that's the best part.
Yeah. So a lot of times, tropical could be just in the eye of the beholder. But usually when you think of tropical plants, you think of big leaves, dramatic flowers, just really green plants. But that's not always the case. Some people may define tropical as a little bit different. Drought tolerant means once established, it needs lower water than, quote, standard plants, whatever that means, but meaning you don't have to water it every single day. Maybe you don't even have to water it every week in the summer once it's established. So, Bruce, do you want to get started?
Well, sure.
Okay.
I'm going to start with one of my favorite group of plants, which is normally orchids, but not this time.
Okay.
It's actually palm trees. So we live in California, and we actually have a native palm. It's called Washingtonia californica, I believe. And clearly it's a native plant, and it is extremely drought tolerant. There are many palms that are drought tolerant that you'll never see in the local stores, and you have to go out of your way to pick them up. I'm trying to think of some common names. Palmettos. If people have been to Florida, they see the palmetto palms. They're big, beautiful leaves. They're not spiny like some of the other fan palms, but they have a real beautiful tropical look to them. And even though they're Florida natives, they're actually quite drought tolerant, as always once established.
Yeah, you really do like your palms. And there's some palms that I definitely like. Most people think of palms as truly being a tropical plant. People plant them to, sort of give the feel of them at the beach. But because their trunks are basically full of water, they could go a long time between watering, or you see them popping up on the side of the road with no irrigation at all.
Right. In fact, many of the Washington palms that you see in a lot of these neighborhoods just are volunteers, and it's such a fast-growing palm that if you forget about it for a couple of years, all of a sudden you'll notice you have a 5-foot-tall palm, and then you don't have the heart to remove it. But many palms are drought tolerant, and it's always once established.
Yes.
And I think that's really important. And the other thing is that so many of them yes, the leaves do somewhat look alike, but then again, as I'm looking at palms versus other plants, I think so many leaves look alike. So we can get past that right away.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw in there, but then other plants have flowers. I mean, obviously palms have flowers as well. In fact, I think, what is it? I don't know what, one of the Coco de Mir palm has the world's largest seed.
It's a big seed.
Yes, and the coconut is one of the world's largest seeds. And I always tell people on tour that more people are killed by coconuts falling on their heads than eaten by sharks. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Hawaii and seen signs that say, watch out for falling coconuts.
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
They mean it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so was that it for your palms?
Well, I mean, I don't think going through the list of palms would be that helpful, because there's so many, they're just scientific names. We really don't have common names, and it's very difficult to really get an idea. But I will say, if I had to give you a couple of things that you can grow here that you can look up on the internet if you want to see pictures, there's the Parajubia, which is a beautiful, fast-growing palm, becomes enormous very quickly. And then there are the Rapis palms. Now, those you might have seen in restaurants, it's just regular houseplants, but they do grow outside here. They're extremely cold hardy. And there's also a few other palms, we call them Camadoria palms. Again, you'll see them in the stores under various names. Cataract palm is one of those. And they are amazingly hardy. One of them is hardy to 22 degrees. And they're very tropical looking, nice wispy leaves. So I think the thing about palms is it's probably best, and maybe we can post this somewhere, if we give you a list of palms that you can grow, and then you can just look up. I'll show you some pictures. And it's really a matter of different heights, different light tolerances to fill in the different gaps you have in your garden.
Yeah, because I mean, palms is, a big category, and
Yes.
they're from all over, and some are not cold tolerant at all.
Right.
And some stay small and some get enormous.
What I would add is that if you go to your local nurseries, you'll find generally 5 or 6 palms that are easy to grow, easy to reproduce, and quick, which is why they sell them here. The really amazing ones, unfortunately, you can't get them big, and they do not grow fast. So it's an investment in a decade of time before you get a tree very often.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll do a whole palm episode, and that's where I just sit back and let you talk. Okay. So remember, these are in no real particular order, but I did sort of decide to get this one out of the way. I'm going with the canna lily. So this is truly a tropical plant. It's from the Americas. And even though it is a tropical plant, it could tolerate very wet conditions, but it can also be abused, i.e., go for a long time without water. So it's a rhizomatous plant, meaning it has underground modified stems that act as roots, and the rhizomes are sort of what you dig up to divide the plant. A lot of areas, especially in California, with the cold, it will go dormant, completely die down, and come back. And I've seen them grow in full sun. I've seen them grow in full shade. I think they do better with afternoon shade and morning sun. And they have very big leaves. They're not in the ginger family, but they're distantly related to the ginger. So they grow very tall. And I'm sure everyone's seen the canna lily. Most common color is more of the orangey red. But there is one called Tropicana that has very showy foliage. It's sort of striped with pinks and these different colors that alone, just the foliage itself, gives a very showy tropical look. So it's one of those that it is truly a tropical plant. It could tolerate wet, but it could be abused and take drought conditions.
And, they can actually become almost weedy, which is they grow so well here.
If they get a lot of water. That's the nice thing about growing it abusively, i.e. not watering it. You sort of... You're stunting it by holding the water. So it's probably not its happiest, but it looks fine without water. So it keeps it in check. So
there is one that I used to grow called Canna musifolia, which basically means banana leaves.
Yeah.
Canna. And it grows, I think it grew 10 feet tall.
I believe it. Yeah.
And then there's the red stripe one, which is really more grown for the leaves, just like the ones that the Tropicana one.
Uh-huh.
And to me, growing them for the leaves is a perfectly good way to grow them. And I even sometimes cut off the flowers because they're sort of weird looking.
Yeah, they are bizarre. They're not, I mean, the flowers, most of the time, because they just having one, you're like, okay, but because they sort of self-multiply, you get multiple flowers, and it sort of just gives you that, that spot of color. Sure. I'm not a big fan, as you know, as we were discussing last week, of that orangey red color. It has to be perfect orange red for me to like it. But so I agree. The foliage on some of them is prettier than the flowers. They're not always that color. There are more yellow ones.
And we'll go on to line for the Pantone specific color that you like. And we can pick and let everyone know that's her only orange that she likes.
That's my only orange. It's very specific orange. All right, next, Bruce.
Oh, I'm going to go with an entire family once again, the Protea family.
Okay.
These are wonderful drought-tolerant plants, mostly Australian and South African. If you've seen proteas, you're most likely have seen them if you get a bouquet of flowers like from Hawaii. They're these big I guess, cone or dome or capital dome shaped flowers. When you turn the capital upside down, that's a protea flower. You've seen grevilleas at the nurseries. Green Acres will sell grevilleas, and they're pretty common, pretty easy to grow here. The thing about all the protea family, the ones that I like to grow anyway, is the flowers are these stupendous, almost odd-looking flowers, which don't really look like they should be made out of living tissue. They look like they should be made out of plastic.
Yeah.
My favorite is the leucospermum, which is also called the pincushion flower. The nice part about proteas is that, unlike some of our local native plants, the proteas pretty much look good, or the protea family pretty much looks good year round. They don't go dormant. And they have generally these grayish, greenish leaves. Some of them have the grevilleas have kind of very finely divided leaves. What's fun about grevilleas is the range of leaf form in them. Some of them are pincushions and some of them are soft and feathery.
Now, I am just going to say, I agree 100% with the leucospermum. I agree with the grevilleas. The proteas, you're the only person I know growing proteas, Bruce.
You mean successfully?
Yes. And the reason being is you want to talk about the drainage.
Yeah. The downside of almost all these plants in the protea family, and I think grevilleas probably might be an exception, which is why you can get them so easily locally, is that they really need extremely good drainage. They don't like clay. They don't like phosphorus. So there's a lot of problems with getting the right conditions for these plants. Personally, I live in an area where it's very clay, and I've lost quite a few. And when they go, they don't just slowly die. They just basically, Monday they look okay. Saturday, they look like they're going to be dead. And the following Saturday, they are dead. They go within a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
But when you have a good condition, good soil for them, and the conditions are right, they are extremely easy, hardy plants to grow. But you have to really work on your soil.
Yeah, most of the times when you see them looking their best is, Santa Cruz University, their botanic gardens has a great collection of them. That's what they're known for, because they are a coastal plant, mainly because of the sandy soils where that phosphorus is limited. So I think maybe they're short-lived, maybe based on having them in not perfect drainage, and then possibly over time the stress of having the phosphorus just sort of wears down on him. So maybe,
and of course,
go ahead.
That's the thing. Don't give them phosphorus in their fertilizer.
Yeah, don't add anymore. Definitely. Most soils have phosphorus in it, probably too much. So I think it goes sort of in the range of grevilleas, then leucospermums, and then protea. If you could grow a protea, good for you.
And Banksias are another one that are phenomenal.
Yes,
they're also a
Banksias
little harder to grow. And I've had Banksias do the sudden death syndrome.
Yeah. And sudden death, usually it's that stress that just gets them. So, okay, go ahead.
I just want to add one thing. If you're going to grow protea family plants, it's really helpful to plant them on a slight hill, meaning like not covering them with mulch, but basically raising the ground up where the plant is going to be probably 6 to 12 inches higher than the rest of the soil. And that all becomes your new soil that the plant is sort of sitting in. And it seems to be a much better way to avoid the potential waterlogging if you're on a rainy winter.
Yeah, it's that the winter rains, because you could control the summer. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, the next one has to be on the list. I mean, how could I do a list just leaving it off because it's so commonplace? I have to have it on list. It's bird of paradise. Strelitzia reginae. South African. Everyone knows it. Very showy, unusual flowers. It's not tropical. It's from South Africa. It's evergreen. Now, we know the reginae as the one with the orange and the blue, but there is a Nicolai, which is a white one. So it has sort of like a muted purple. And then there is a leafless one that we have a few of at work, where it's leafless, but they're actually the leaves. So because the stem's at the base, it looks like, almost think of a Sansevieria, but a cylindrical leaf. And that one has the same flowers as the reginae. Now, these are just almost impossible to kill. They take frost, they take full sun, They take shade. They bloom better in more sun. I think most people put them in too much shade and they don't bloom as much. And they could go, a couple weeks without water. Is that ideal? No, but they tolerate low water. So it's just people, when they think, I think of a tropical looking garden, but minimal water usage, bird of paradise, right?
Now, the Nicolii is the big one. It gets a good 10 to 15 feet tall, at least in tropical environments. I like it, but I find they say it's a little less cold tolerant. And I think the downside is the leaves get really shredded.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
So although when they were growing in Hawaii, they seem to be less shreddy. But here they do get very shredded. And I question, do I like that or don't? And I'm not sure, which is why I haven't put one in. Because once you plant those and they get to 10 feet tall, they're in.
Yeah, the giant. Yeah, my grandma had one in SoCal, and it was like above her second story of her house. And I never saw it bloom. It never bloomed. Those ones I don't think bloom as much.
No, but the flowers are not, they're cool, but they're not
cool. No, they're not. They're not as dramatic. When I say interesting, I think it's because it's just different. But yeah, I mean, you could find them at every nursery. People want to know, how do you keep them smaller? You sort of have to divide them. You can't really cut them or make them more narrow because they'll just grow right back. So you got to divide them.
Big.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it for bird of paradise. We won't spend too much time on that one. Next one. Your next one, Bruce.
Yes, sorry. So one of my favorites is crinum lilies. Now,
okay,
they're moderately drought tolerant. For the stuff that I'm going to pick is pretty much going to be drought tolerant, and then in parentheses, once established.
Yeah, the mine's same.
But what I love about crinums is the leaves. They're basically, I guess I would say the plants look a little bit like agapanthus plants, in that they have these big strap-shaped leaves, although they're a little bit wider than agapanthus. There are some that have purple leaves, and those you're really just growing for the leaves because they just become enormous. Crinum lilies they're sort of lily-shaped flowers. They're in the amaryllis family, and they really take a lot of sun. I have them in my semi-arid garden, and I've just put them in this year. So these are small plants. And even when we hit 103, there was just no burn on them. I mean, they just seem to take full, hot Sacramento sun. So I think that, and the fact that they're drought tolerant, and the fact that they're pretty tropical looking when in flower, especially, and they get better and better every year, makes it a great tropical look plant.
Yeah, we have a few of them at work. We had one growing inside the greenhouse. I forget the species. I tried to pawn it off on you.
White one.
Yeah, the white one. Yes. It's on tip of my tongue. I can't remember. And then we have a smaller one, but yeah, and the flowers are fragrant too, I think. Yes. So that's nice. Yeah. You know what? I almost had that one on my list. Almost put that one on my list, but
I just want to say that the flower colors are basically, there's dark, purplish pink, white, and then white with stripes. That's basically your colors.
And they don't, at least from my experience, they don't bloom a ton. Maybe in the tropics they bloom more, but my experience is they don't bloom a ton. But that's what makes it sort of worth it, because when they do bloom, you're like, wow, they're showy, they're fragrant.
I would generally get each plant would give me about 2 flower spikes per summer.
Okay, yeah, okay.
They don't last as long as I'd like, but you can get about 2 weeks per flower spike because the flowers bloom somewhat in succession.
Yeah. Okay, next one for mine is the natal plum. And it's not a plum. It's actually in the euphorbia family. So it's Carissa macrocarpa. And actually, no, I take that back. It's not in the euphorbia family. Duh. It's in the Posinaceae family. I was thinking of the toxic families, because it's an edible fruit, but here it is in like the oleander family. So my grandma had one in SoCal, and we would eat the fruit. Is it good? No, but it was edible. So I thought it was amazing. We could just eat it off of there. The reason why I have this on is it's from South Africa. So you wouldn't look at it and think, oh, it's tropical, but like everything in the Apocynaceae family, they have that pinwheel shaped flower. It's white, so it looks like a small plumeria flower or a very large true jasmine flower. And then it gets the fruits on them that are about the size, maybe about 2 inches long, sort of oval shaped, and they're bright red. And they have very dark green glossy leaves, and you could abuse it. We have one in a pot at the conservatory that never really got watered. It was sort of pushed back, and we were thinking of getting rid of it, but then a few times a researcher needed it. So I just think when it's in bloom, it looks tropical, it's interesting, and it's truly drought tolerant.
One of the funny things about plants is that when they're not doing well and they're about to die, and you don't even do it deliberately, but you're just saying in the plant's vicinity, if this thing doesn't bloom this year, it's going. And, they just tend to bloom. What is it? I don't understand it.
They must know. They must know their time is coming down. All right. Next one, Bruce.
I have 2 common ones. Well, one is more common than the other. The first one is Philodendron Saloum, which we all see at the nurseries. It's the big-leaved, I think sometimes they call it the tree philodendron, but, I'm not much on common names because that could be anything. It's got really beautiful big leaves. It does not like too much sun, or the leaves will yellow. But again, once established, it's relatively drought tolerant, which is a surprise when you see the plant and looks extremely tropical. But for those like me who say, well, I don't want to grow the same plant that everyone has. I don't care if it's tropical. There's another one called Philodendron evansii, Evansii. That's a hybrid. And the leaves are about as big as the Philodendron Saloum, but they're not divided. So they're basically these big, giant leaves. I would add that those specific plants have been removed from Philodendron. Now they're in the genus Thaumatophyllum.
Yeah, I know.
And there are a few others that are in that genus that are sold in local stores as philodendrons. Philodendron goldii, you'll see. I don't know if those are going to be as hardy, but it is interesting to me that out of the 5 species that I'm aware of, 2 of them are hardy in our climate. And because they're expensive when they're big, I'm hesitant to leave it outside in the winter. But I might try leaving them in a warmer spot and see what happens when the first frost, if we get one, comes.
Yeah, or you could take a cutting, root it, and then either keep that one inside and move the big one out or something like that.
True. I haven't been up. I'm still at one stem, so I haven't been able to.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Interesting, because I thought not necessarily the monstera or the philodendron, but I was thinking, I'm like, there might be a few aroids out there that could tolerate possibly being considered drought tolerant but they weren't drought tolerant enough for me to put them on my list. Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's why my aroid list is very minimal. And I think the fact that these are drought tolerant is shown in that you see them all over the town. You see lots and lots of Philodendron Saloum, and they're locally grown. Mm-hmm. And so I think if they can be grown so easily here, then they've got to be at least somewhat drought tolerant. Mm-hmm. Drought tolerant, not drought proof.
Yes, correct. I mean, they need water. You can't go all summer without water in them. They probably need water at least once a week, which is pretty drought tolerant. They may not look their best, but you get through the summer.
And keep them under the dappled shade of a tree, and they'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, and definitely tropical looking.
Absolutely.
Okay, my next one is a sago palm, which is not a palm. It's a cycad. It's Cycas revoluta. And so it gives the tropical look of a palm, but it's not a palm, so I could put it on my list.
Well, it's funny you say that because I have cycads on my list too.
There you go. Oh, we have an overlap. Yay.
But being the person that I am, I listed the sago palm because, it's easy to get. There are plenty of cycads that you can grow here that are not just the Cycas revoluta, and they are, once again, a little hard to get big plants. They're not going to be cheap, but the downside of the Cycas revoluta is that if you bump into it, it hurts. It's very sharp. There are plenty of other cycads that are not that pointy, and you can touch the leaves and enjoy it.
See, I don't think this, I guess maybe because I work with a whole range of cycads, I thought the Cycas revoluta is a nicer one than a lot of the other ones.
Well, I guess I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the plant that puts you into the
And
coma.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
Psychus Revoluta, I'd give a 7.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. I have it on my list because to me, it gives the most tropical looking vibe for the least amount of water. Yes. Maybe you have do you have the Zamia?
I have the Zamias, and I have a what is it? A Lepidozamia perovskiana,
Oh, okay.
which
Yeah.
is it's very touchable. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. You'll probably spend at least $50 to $75 for a 3-leaf plant, but it's a little faster growing than some of the others.
Yeah, so there are so many different cycads, and I could have had others, but the ones from the more arid regions aren't as leafy, not as green leafy. And then the cycad is just the most common one to find at nurseries. And once it's established, it really doesn't need water. And you could train it as a single trunked or leave all the pups to keep growing and have just this big mass of them.
I removed my pups when I did have a Cycas revoluta in the garden. What I think is nice is when you keep it at one, each leaf gets very big because just that one growth. So it's not a lot of competition from side growth.
Yeah. And I think it looks better as one too. We have a few at work where we didn't remove the side pups and it's this big mass and it looks nice. And just FYI, is it poisonous? It is. I mean, there's a whole bunch of plants that are poisonous. But the fruits of the females can look quite showy. So if you do have kids or dogs that are attracted to shiny things and want to eat them because
we're gardeners, we're attracted to shiny
I know
things.
Exactly. They're dioecious, meaning you either have a male or female plant, and it takes a while for them to cone. So a lot of times I'll get questions because the female looks like this big growth in the center, and people will be like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" It's the female cone.
Yeah.
Just let it be. The male cones on cycads look more like corn on the cob.
Yes, I've had my Cycas revoluta. I had a male plant, and the male they're not flowers, they're cones, I should say, but they are really interesting. But the male ones don't hold on as long.
Yeah,
as the female ones.
Yeah. So that's what I have. So we did have an overlap of
I want to add on cycads.
Yeah.
There's one which is it's easy to get, but hard to get anything big because a big one will cost you upwards of $500 is the encephalartos plants.
Beautiful ones. Yeah.
They are magnificent leaves. They're very sharp. Their cones are just incredible. If you ever see a cone of an encephalatos, you'll swoon.
Now you're talking the female or the male?
Well, I'm assuming the female, but because I can't tell the difference in those.
Some of them are, I'm trying to think I think we have one at work. I don't know if I've ever seen, we have a few planted out at work. And what's nice, and that is actually my favorite cycad because it's blue tinged.
Yes.
It has a very blue color. It's my favorite, but it is the pointiest and sharpest one.
And incredibly slow growing.
Very slow growing. And it doesn't have many leaves, so it gives more of an arid look. Than tropical, but no, that is my favorite cycad.
Yes, it's true. It is a little more arid than tropical.
Yes.
One of the reasons I like the lepidozamia is that its leaves are soft, so it does feel more tropical.
Yes. No, I agree with that one. It's funny because I was just looking at getting our collection certified in like the American Botanical Society, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of work to get the whole thing. But our cycad collection is the rarest. We have the most number of critically endangered plants we have. A lot of them fall into our cycads. So our cycad collection at work is pretty phenomenal. Just so happens I'm not a huge cycad lover, but I got to start liking them better. It's just they hurt so bad when you're pruning them.
The only thing worse is an agave collection.
The cycads are just the problem with the cycads is they're carcinogenic and they have nerve toxins. So every time I cut myself and poke myself, I'm like, well, there's some right there. Just injected myself with God knows whatever.
I used to have a 2 plant a day habit with encephalatos. It was really hard to give up, but I put the cycad patch on my neck and I was cured.
There you go. Anyway, so you got to love cycads. It's just, yes, it takes like palms, like true palms, sometimes they all can look a little similar. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
I'm not knocking, not knocking.
no, they do. And I think it's really a matter of, number one, if you are a fan, you'll appreciate the different forms. And again, just like with palms, I think sometimes it's a matter of, well, this cycad fits this spot in my garden because it's shadier, or this one's drier or hotter. So, and this one's bigger, small, so stuff like that makes it fun to sort of fit the right plant for the right.
And I think in the right setting, if we had more space for our potted ones to show off individually, they would look so much better. And I think I would appreciate them. Yes, that's always the case. All right. So I did cycads. We sort of overlapped with cycads, but I'll let you have what's your next one?
Well, my next one is plumeria.
Okay.
Plumerias are actually marginally hardy here, and they are seen obviously, people see them in Hawaii all the time. I was in Sydney, and I saw quite a few large plumeria trees in Sydney. I was there in the winter, and they defoliated completely. Sydney is not quite as cold as us, and they're a little bit more humid. But I think the point was that it does get cold enough in their winter that there'll be an occasional frost, but they're going down to the upper 30s easily. And I believe you have one outside at UC Davis Conservatory, which has experienced frost. Is that correct?
We have at least two. We have a large one that's on the ground right up against the green. So they're both between the two greenhouses, so they are protected. But one of them is growing so much that it's up and over the greenhouse, so it's sort of exposed. And the other one is smaller in a pot tucked amongst plants. So yes, they could tolerate frost if protected. I wouldn't plant them in the ground outside. I would definitely keep them against the house.
Right.
If small, I would probably move in just to err on the side of caution. But yes, if they're protected, they could handle temperatures down to the high 20s if they're protected in areas. And they are drought tolerant. So it just so happens that I have plumeria on my list as well.
Yeah, they are amazingly drought tolerant. But when you look at the plant, they are very succulent. And the leaves are, I guess I say, semi-deciduous. In a tropical area, they're not, but it's perfectly normal for a plumeria to completely defoliate for part of the year and then come back beautifully.
Yeah, no, I consider them a succulent because if you've ever pruned one or looked at it, it's full of water, so it could go much longer. In fact, they're from you go to the tropics, in the dry tropics, where they don't have the consistent rain, they're growing there. So there are tropical plants that live in dry tropics where you don't, it's not like a wet rainforest. So they are a succulent, and I consider them drought tolerant. In fact, if you overwater them, they rot out on you.
Yes, that's the danger of keeping them outside year round. As the winter, they'll rot out. So if keeping them in a pot has the advantage of draining better, and it's not sitting in soggy soil. I will say that on my way to the freeway, there is a house that has plumeria planted in the ground on their south wall. It's in a 1-foot raised bed. It took me a while, but passing back and forth before I said, that is a plumeria. So it is. They're growing it in the ground. It's flowering right now. It's been there for at least 3 years.
Okay.
And it's big. And frankly, like my plumeria in the pot and yours in between the greenhouses, it's getting too big to move inside.
Yeah.
So that's the downside of being successful when you're growing something in a pot. Yeah,
I mean, so plumerias made it on the list where, say, a brugmansia did not. Because a brugmansia, the angel's trumpet, is so tropical looking, but it has these big, thin leaves that when you don't water it, it's the first thing at work to wilt. Right. If we don't water in a pot. So that is absolutely not drought tolerant. Whereas the plumeria, the pot was laying on its side, no joke, for like over 2 months. And I was barely getting water into it because it meant I'd have to climb behind the cooler system. Luckily, someone uprighted it for me. So I know, I'm like, poor thing's barely getting any water and it's pot bound. But yeah, so we did that with the brugmansia. It would have been dead.
And the other thing about plumerias, which is, it's different than a brugmansia in its flowering habit. When the brugmansias bloom, at least when the older cultivars, they'll bloom all at once for about a week or so. Then they'll take a month off and they'll bloom again, at least on the conditions that I've had. Yeah. So they seem to bloom in spurts. Whereas the plumeria, when it blooms, it has, of course, smaller flowers. Each flower head, though, keeps on blooming.
Yeah.
The flowers just keep on branching. The flower spikes keep on branching and new flowers come out. So I've had one blooming since July, the first week in July, and that's the same flower head as blooming now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
And I mean, you could, if you go online to a plumeria nursery online, it's like eye candy because there's so many hybrids and they're so gaudy, and I love it because they have the perfect orange colors. I'm not
and
gonna lie.
they have pink with purple
Oh,
and yellow and orange and white all in the same
Oh
flower.
my God. Yeah. It's just gaudiness at its best. It's like, oh my God, look at that. Oh my God. Yeah. The next one. And then you can't decide and you go, well, forget it. I can't decide.
Oh, and by the way, they smell good.
And they smell good. Yeah. So, nope. I'm glad we have that on our list. And they're easy to take cuttings of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not been that successful because I probably give the cuttings too much water when I'm trying to root them.
They do get spider mites. So if you do try to grow them inside, which I don't recommend growing them inside year round because they don't get enough light inside. And I had one in my plant room and it got spider mites, and I'm like, nothing else got spider mites. So I'm like, out you go. So, I moved it outside, and it's fine. It's just if you have them during the winter, they will drop their leaves, and you taper off the water when you bring them inside. Just let them go a little dormant. Okay, so we had the plumeria. So look at that. We had 2 in a row. We both had.
Wow.
I know. Let's see. I doubt you'll have this one on your list. Maybe you will. Caesalpinia pulcherrima.
Oh my gosh, that was my next plant.
No, it was not. Shut up.
No, it was.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Pride of Barbados.
Or red bird of paradise, which is not a bird of paradise at all. This plant isn't planted as much as it should be.
I know.
Yeah, it's when I see it, I make a mental note and go, oh my God, that is a stunner. At the train station in Davis, they have them. And so there's the red bird of paradise, which is sort of misleading because it's sort of a reddish orange, or an orange with a little red. Because there's I think a pink one, which I've never seen growing. So
I had it, but I killed it.
It makes me think that maybe it's not as easy to grow. Yes. So this is, you wouldn't look at it and think drought tolerant because it has sort of fine leaves. It looks, I didn't even see what family it's in.
Isn't it in the
it's not the
family?
Oh, you're right. I was about to say it looks like the pea family leaf. Duh. So, yeah. So, but it's one of those that once it's established, it's drought tolerant.
Very drought tolerant.
Very drought tolerant. Takes full sun. It could get upwards of 10 feet tall. So we're talking a big shrub. And it handles our cold with it being out in the open. I don't think it would take a zone any colder than 9, though. I think we're at it.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think anything. But man, the flowers are so showy.
There was one, I think I don't know which one it was, but I believe I had one growing outside in New York for a short time.
Ooh,
because we probably had a mild winter and it came back from the ground. That's my guess.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, if it could sprout up from the ground.
But it didn't last.
Yeah, but no, it's not planted. I don't really readily see it at nurseries.
No, you can't find it.
No,
and you only can get a mail order. And
yeah, and I think in some tropical regions it might be considered weedy, but not here. I don't think it becomes weedy here.
I used to go when I'd work in Stockton. There was one street I'd go down, and I'd always make sure I stopped and looked at their bird of paradise. Their Caesalpinia to get seeds. And I did finally get seeds. They're very hard to sprout.
Oh, I'm sure. Like a lot of the pea family, they're really hard and need probably some scarification, if not stratification.
Yeah, but it did go to the ground every winter and then sprout it back in spring.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. In fact, now that I'm thinking I'm going to go drive by that, I take a trip down to Stockton and steal those people's seeds.
I might go to the train station, try cutting. For science sake. Of course. Yeah. It's like science experiment. Okay. Well, I'm glad and if people don't know that, Google it. It's the flowers are quite large.
Yes.
And they don't look like a bird of paradise at all. I almost want to say they're more orchid shaped.
Yeah, I mean, and what's also nice is they come in these panicles.
Uh-huh.
So when you'll get a little bit of more time because
Yeah.
it's a successive bloomer, but also you do get enough blooming at once. They almost look like cleome flowers.
Little bit, yeah, without the
Same family.
Yeah, without the pokies.
Right.
Yeah, the cleome has that sharp ow. You forget about it until you go to grab a flower and you're like, ow. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh yes, it hurts. Yeah. Okay, that was mine. Let's see if we could continue this rule with having duplicates, but I doubt it. I think they'd be too
I'm
bizarre.
down to my last plant already.
No, you're not.
I
Top 10?
am because of the overlap.
Oh.
And I had one family had 4 different genera in it, like my protea families.
Oh, so you talked about, okay. So you thought each plant in there was your, okay. Cause I still have 4 left and my bonus.
Well, I think you should take at least 2.
Okay. You want me to go on? I'll do 2.
Go right on.
Okay. So this one I just put in there because of the showy, vibrant color. I have Tradescantia pallida. It's the purple heart one. So I could say, what is the common name, Bruce, of Tradescantia?
I don't know that one.
The common name of Tradescantia?
You
could say it.
Wandering Jew, they used to call it.
Yes.
You're
allowed to say.
I guess I'm allowed to say that.
You're allowed to say it because you're Jewish.
Yes.
Yeah, the common name is of Tradescantia is just generally wandering Jew, which I try not to say these days, but
because it grows all over the place.
Exactly. So this one, and you've seen it at the conservatory, it has dark purple leaves, and it will grow in full sun. It dies down all the way back. It can if it's cold. And then the flowers pop up and they're this pinky purple. But it has such a vibrant purple that, my gosh, if you had it growing below the Caesalpinia, you would have like this purple and orange just explosion. So it's a ground cover and impossible to sort of kill it off. So, because in my mind, what I think of a lot of tropical plants is sort of these bright, vibrant colors. Mm-hmm. So you could easily take cuttings if you have one. So the only thing is, like I said, it'll die down if you get really cold temperatures and it just grows back. You could keep it in a pot, in a container, use it as ground cover. Probably a little afternoon shade is ideal in really hot climates, but I've seen it in full sun. So that's one of them.
Aren't there perennial Tradescantia that are just grown as perennials?
Well, this one
spiderworts.
Yes, we have some of those too. I mean, this one is perennial because the leaves die down and the root system's still alive. So it doesn't. Yeah, most Tradescantia are perennials, unless the frost completely kills them. But they're all technically perennials. Yeah,
and very easy to get in, if not locally, in major mail order nurseries.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay, you want me to do another one?
Sure.
Okay, this one gives the look of a Brugmansia, but on a much smaller scale. And the reason why I have this one is it's so drought tolerant once established. This one they've changed the name. The old name used to be Iochroma, and now it's Acnistis australis.
Oh, well, it makes so much more sense.
Doesn't it though? I know. I can't pronounce either of them, so thank you.
I used to call it Iochroma.
What did I say? Iochroma?
You say Iochroma. I say Iochroma.
I think I used to say
let's call the whole
Iochroma.
thing Anachromis or whatever.
Yeah. This one it's in the same family, the Brugmansiae, Solanaceae, the nightshade family. It's from Argentina and Bolivia. It is for me at least, it's grown. We've had it at work. I had it at home. A small, medium-sized shrub, so maybe 4 to 6 feet tall. And I had it in an area where I didn't give it any water at all year round, got no supplemental water. So it relied on winter rain, and then the summer didn't get any water. Wow. And it gets these little bell-shaped purple flowers. Now, there are a few plants that I want to say that there's Iochroma, that has a more tubular, darker purple. And that one's not as drought tolerant as the lighter purple one that I know is Actinistis australis. So if that makes sense.
Variety.
There is a red variety. So I think the ones with more tubular shape, in my opinion, are not as tropical as the sort of bell-shaped, lighter purple ones.
Tropical looking, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So I like the darker purple, but this one is you can't kill it because it doesn't need water, but it still has more of that tropical look to it.
Yeah, I would love for the red. I would love, frankly, for someone to cross those great colors in the Iachroma with Brugmansias so we can get really groovy looking Brugmansia flowers, which might be a little more drought tolerant and a little more tolerant of colder temperatures.
Yeah, there's that orange-ish red flower, Brugmansia, but definitely not drought tolerant.
Right.
No.
Oh, well.
Oh, well, we could hope. Work on that, Bruce, in your retirement.
Yeah, those are actually pretty hard to cross because you got to rip the whole flower open and find the little parts. Yeah. It's too much work.
Too much work. Oh, leave it up to other people. I always say I never hybridize because it requires organization. I would be like, God, I don't remember what I crossed that with. Sorry. Yeah. I'm horrible.
I made one orchid cross in my lifetime. You have to get a seed pod, and then you have to send the seeds away to a laboratory to grow. And they ended up with around 20 plants, which whittled down to around 3. But, it was a 5-year process, and it was a pain in the neck.
And what'd you get?
I crossed a Oncidium orchid, which was tolerant to, which I had growing outdoors, with they call them Tolumnias. They used to call them equitint Oncidiums with these tiny little amazingly colored flowers. So I crossed the two of them, hoping to get, crossed the yellow with a red, hoping to get a red flower that was hardy outdoors. And you know what I got? I got an ugly white flower. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
It's worth
5 years.
of my time.
5 years. Yeah.
Yes.
See, I don't think I'm ready for that kind of disappointment.
When doing orchid hybridization, my understanding is the vast majority of the crosses are, frankly, thrown out because they're the same, or they're not better, or they're not good at all.
I say that, but I would be bragging about any cross I made. I think I would be bragging. I'd be like, best flower ever. Check this out. And then, really, because it's pretty awesome that you did do that.
Well, I will say, a little off topic, but one of the reasons I did that is that the Tolumnias are so hard to grow and very easy to you get them in bloom, and then within a half a year, even for orchid growers, they're dead. Whereas the Oncidium that I crossed it with grows outdoors like a weed. And interesting, when I did get the first generation plant, it had the appearance of an intermediate between both types, and it was much easier to grow. So theoretically, if I had done some further breeding, I might have actually gotten a really nice flower on a really easy to grow plant, but it was not meant to be.
No. There's other things you could spend your time with.
Yes.
Gardening, obviously, plant related, but yes, of course. Yes. Okay, why don't you go on with your next one?
So my last, again, it's a group of plants.
Okay.
It's bromeliads.
Okay.
Specifically, there are a couple that the Neoregelia, which is the one you see most of the time in stores. It has a big rosette, and the flowers inside are these little teeny purple flowers. What's great about those, number one, is they are the tropics in many people's opinions because they have these bright colors in the leaves. When they're getting ready to flower, often the colors become more intense. There are a couple of other bromeliads. I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but they are grown more for the flowers.
Well, there's the Acmea.
Yes.
And
Very
then
hardy.
There's, of course, now I'm drawing a blank on them.
Bilbergias.
Bilbergias are great. I almost put that on the list. The Queen of Hearts.
And you can buy Bilbergia.
Tears.
That's called Queen's Tears.
Yes.
That's actually sold in some local nurseries.
Bilbergia repens. And it's gray foliage, and then the flowers come out and they dangle, and I guess it's supposed to look like tears.
Right.
It's really showy. I almost put that one on my list.
And so what I love about bromeliads is They do need overhead protection in the winter. Otherwise, they'll probably will just, if they don't freeze, they'll rot out. But there's two reasons why I like them to growing in my tropical garden. Number one is they really don't need a lot of water at all. The roots on a bromeliad are generally used to just hold it in place on the tree because they're epiphytic. And the main thing you'll have to do is make sure there's water in the vase inside the plants, in the middle of the leaves at all times. That's how they grow in nature. And that water does not evaporate in one day. So if you have either a sprinkler system or if you just go through your garden with a bucket, with a watering can once a week, you add water to your bromeliads, and that's all they need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's extremely drought tolerant, and it produces its own humidity because it's got water inside of it. So even though there might be somewhat higher humidity requiring plants, it's doing it itself because it's got water sitting inside the vase. In the winter, what is really cool is that when you have water in the vase, if it starts to get cold, and even if we have a freeze, water as it freezes radiates heat. So that's why at the last bit in a piece, when some water is freezing into ice, it takes long when it hits 32 degrees to really turn into ice, because as it's freezing, it's releasing heat, which in a sense is warming up the area.
Mm-hmm.
And water has what they call a high specific gravity, which means it takes a lot of heat to change water a small amount in temperature. So again, having the water inside the plant keeps it from freezing.
Yeah, we need to try to grow some more of the bromeliads at work outside. I think that'd be cool to do a little cluster of them.
And you can even grow the big ones outside. I have one that is probably, now it's about 2 feet across, so eventually it'll be about 3 or 4 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's a Varesia, but it seems to be perfectly hardy. Again, I always say in protected areas, doesn't require a lot of water.
My requirement for bromeliads is no pokey sides. Oh man, my arms could be
they're all pokey, I will say that.
Some aren't. And I like those ones. Man,
well,
they
the ones that
shred
are pokey, they have teeny tiny little leaves that you don't notice.
Yeah. My arms will notice it the next
not leaves,
day.
but spines.
So in what is it? It's bromelain. That's the chemical, because I think it's pineapple family, but I think it's the bromelain that in the leaves that will also cause me to break out too.
Oh,
so
I did not know
I think
that.
they have a little bit of a chemical in them, because it's not only do they cause, at first, I'll start itching really bad and look at my arms and they'll be broken out. And then the next day it's all scabs from the cuts.
Oh,
so
gosh.
yeah, I tried. We had actually an epiphytic wall for some of this one class to go and do plant surveys. And we had a lot of bromeliads in, and we were asked, can you please take the ones out with the sharp edges, the students are I'm like, come on. They're not going to make good research scientists if they can't handle little cut up arms. But no.
No, they're not going to be collecting plants on a cliff. That's for sure.
No.
I am growing pineapples outdoors.
I was going to say pineapples are very drought tolerant. They're grown in the lava fields. At work, we grow them in pure pumice. And then, if they have the water in the cups, it's the cold. Yours haven't been outside through the winter, have they?
No, but I am told that, again, I use your microclimates.
Mm-hmm.
I have mine in my west wall.
Yep.
And I'm going to hope for the best.
Yeah, I think if it's protected from the brutal frost, I think it will be okay. So if it's protected there, and so in the summertime, what's in a little afternoon shade, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the ones that I bought, they were teeny, so I'm just hoping they become big enough by fall that they are able to make it through the winter.
They take a long time to fruit.
18 months?
Yeah. I mean, we used to need them for a lab, and they needed 6 pineapples in fruit 1 week out of every quarter. To time that right, we would need a lot
about 50 of them.
We would need a lot. So we'd buy pineapples and cut the tops off, let them dry, and then start pineapples from pineapple tops. So you could do that. And then, it would take a really long time. So we're still growing them, even though that class doesn't need them anymore. They're just fun to have. But when you get one, you're like, oh, thank God. But, trying to
And
get.
they're not big when you get them yourself.
No. Actually, we've had some decent sized ones. It's surprising that they were almost full size pineapples.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm growing mine in the ground, so I'm hoping as a result
Yeah.
I get full-size
You
pineapples.
should. Yeah. Ours were pretty stressed in the pot size. Okay. I have 2 left. And I have a bonus.
done.
Think of a bonus.
A
You didn't do
bonus.
bonus. Okay. My last 2. I have, this one is a California native, believe it or not. And I threw it in there because of the color. To me, the color, like I said, to me, tropical is not only is it, you could have a large leaf and look tropical that way, but if you have a very distinct, bright color, that to me screams tropics. And this is Salvia spathaceae, which is the hummingbird sage. And it has the bright pink flower cluster on it. And it's a California native, but it does well in shade and it does great in dry shade. And so if you have a tree that you don't want to supplement water for, i.e., say an oak, because you don't want to give it extra water, you could plant the Salvia spathaceae underneath it. Say you have a dry area where there's just very minimal summer irrigation. You could plant this. Of course, does it do better with more water? Yeah, but it doesn't need it. And it's very fragrant. It's a sage. It's a true sage. And hummingbirds, it's called hummingbird sage because hummingbirds like it. So to me, it's like a really nice, true, vibrant pink.
So I have a question about the salvia for you.
Mhm.
I'm a little hesitant to put salvias in my garden because I fear they may be invasive, being in the mint family.
No, not at all. Nope.
Okay.
No, mints are incredibly invasive because of their root structure. The only salvia that is potentially invasive, in my opinion, is the bog salvia, Salvia ungulinosa, but it requires a lot of water for it to become invasive. I had it in my dry garden and it was kept in check. But no, in fact, most salvias, a lot of salvias are incredibly drought tolerant. Some of them are from South Africa and die from too much water. So no, most of them will not become invasive at all.
Well, that's good.
No.
That's good to know because
Yeah.
that was my concern because
Nope.
some of them are very pretty. Salvia gregii and its hybrids are very pretty.
Salvia gregii is probably one of my least favorite because it's shorter lived. It becomes very woody, and it's one of those where once it becomes woody, it's really hard to cut back. It doesn't like to be cut back into its old wood. But there are some fabulous. There's a whole book of salvias by an author whose last name happens to be Salvia.
Mr. Salvia.
And I forget her first name, of course. Gosh, but no, there's some truly amazing. The Morning Sun Herb Farm, if you're local, out in Vacaville, cultivates and has a lot of salvias. And
They do. They have a tremendous variety of salvias.
There's Salvia melissadora, which smells like grape. Supposedly, I had it. It doesn't really smell like grape. There's one, Salvia buchanii, that has a dark small leaf and it has a very fuzzy pink flower. That one's very frost sensitive. And there's some just clary sage. I have a clary sage. Oh, amazing. There's Salvia apiana, which is the white sage. Incredibly drought tolerant. So yeah, there's so
Clary
many.
sage have enormous leaves?
It has enormous fuzzy leaves and it has beautiful clusters of white flowers with tinge of pink. And it's an early bloomer and then that's sort of it. And it's sort of, I'll give you a plantlet or some seeds. It's really nice. I like it.
It sounds tropical looking.
In the right setting,
leaves.
it could be, but no, not. It looks more English garden to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but once again, it's all really what you put them with. If you put it with bird of paradise and a sago palm, it's gonna
That's
maybe give that look. But no, it looks more English garden like. All right.
Hey,
Go
I
ahead.
thought of a whole bunch of plants that we haven't discussed that is tropical looking to some degree and that the flowers are unusual, there are an entire bunch of different South African bulbs
Oh, yeah.
that when they're in
Mhm.
bloom, they are extremely tropical because they're unusual color combinations. You'll see these bright magentas with
Mhm.
purple in them. The
Mhm.
form of the flowers are very unusual.
Let's do a whole South African bulb
I think we should.
podcast. Yeah.
And they go summer dormant, a lot of them, which
Yep.
truly doesn't make your
Fully
summer
drought
garden
tolerant.
pretty, but ease of growth for our climate.
And truly drought tolerant. Yeah. No, some of the
Truly
South
drought
African
tolerant.
bulbs are like the Romulea. Ooh.
I love those.
Oh, that one's stunning. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's more too. I didn't put lantana on this list. I mean, that is very tropical looking.
I mean,
And
lantana? That
yeah.
one?
Yeah. Lantana.
Easy to
like,
grow.
Easy to grow. Okay. I have one more and my bonus.
Okay.
Okay. This one, once again, because of the color, I think, Russellia equisetiformis. It's a trailing Mexican native. It is hummingbird pollinated. It has probably 2-inch long, very tubular flowers, almost always in bloom, and it has a cascading effect. So the leaves are tiny on it. So it looks almost like, and where it gets its name is equisetiformis. I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's like equisetum because it almost looks like the horsetail, but flopped over. And of course, whereas horsetail grows in water, this one is drought tolerant. So if you have a raised wall, this looks great draped over it. If you have a large pot, it could grow in a pot, and it's drought tolerant once it's established. It gets
And almost a shocking pink color.
You think it's more orangey, Bruce? I think
Okay,
that's
I'm
more
looking at
orangey.
pictures, but
Okay, I'm like, is he colorblind? Completely
no, I'm just
colorblind?
getting
Yeah.
cataracts.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. 3 to 5 feet wide. Even though it is an orange, it's not my favorite orange. It does look tropical. So it's drought tolerant. There's a lot on campus now. It used to, you only see every once in a while, but around the plant bio building, there's a lot, a decent amount. So
Now that looks a lot like, what is it, Zauscherina,
I
which
hate
is the
that plant.
California
Bleh,
fuchsia.
Bleh.
I've just opened up a can of worms, which I am now going to close.
See, that's where people like do their front yards and they turn them into the natives, and someone plants that, and then that takes over their whole yard, and that's all they have. And then they hate their yard, and they're like, "Well, I don't like natives." And you're like, "Well, no, because that you planted that one." Yeah, no, I'm sure it has its place.
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks similar in the flowers.
No,
but
you're correct. Same exact color. Same exact color, almost same shape. Whereas the Russellia, I think, has very more tubular, whereas the Joschneria has a little bit more of an opening, more of that snapdragon opening there.
Mhm.
Okay, did you come up with a bonus off the top of your head?
I did come up with a bonus, and I'm not sure if this would be considered tropical, but it's exotic looking, which
Okay.
in a sense, that's what your tropical garden
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and I don't know if this is winter hardy here, of ponytail palms.
Ooh, nice.
What is it again? Baucarina recurvata? Am I close enough, Marlene?
Bachneria, yeah.
When you get them nice and big, they have this great big cortex.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to change it. I'm going to have a different bonus. It's Brachychiton australicus, the bottle tree.
Rupestris, the pink one?
Rupestris?
Yeah.
Yes, rupestris.
Okay. Well,
The
you're
bottle
jumping
tree.
everywhere. Okay. You just got 2 bonuses in there. Okay. The bottle tree. Okay. Yeah.
Has the same, I mean, again, it's not so much tropical as incredibly exotic because it has this base and much hardier than the ponytail palm.
It's much hardier. I agree. We have 2 ponytail palms growing at work, but they're in a courtyard. They're huge. I don't know what we're going to do. They're in massive cement planters. They're absolutely gorgeous. You know, we have one inside the greenhouse that is busted through the pot. But they are out, and we have actually, I take that back. We have another one growing on the south wall of a building. So if they're protected from the cold, they definitely could be grown outside, very low water, because that Codex is basically just water storage.
Right.
And then the Brachychiton rupestris, we have 3 as well. One of them on a west wall, west-south sort of corner where it's protected from the winter. And then we have 2 in pots between the greenhouse. So also protected.
I think the Brachychiton rupestris, I think it's like 26 degrees
Sounds
hardy,
about right.
depending.
Yeah.
Whereas the ponytail palm is probably like 28.
Yeah,
Am I
they're
wrong?
probably right about the same. Yeah, right about the same. And the rupestris, though, the flowers they're a nice orange. They're like a orangey red pink, and they're fuzzy.
And the leaves are sort of interesting. They're these finely divided,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like ferny leaf.
A little bit, and I think that they're fuzzy too.
See.
Yeah. But the flowers, because the flowers show up first when the plant is deciduous. So you have these flowers on the plant with no foliage, so they really stand out a lot.
Well, that's the flame tree also, the Brachychiton. Oh, I forgot that one, but it's the red flowered one.
Yeah, I think it's probably I think maybe all the Brachychitons do the same thing, possibly.
Yeah, they go dormant. I think they go dormant in the area that's going to bloom, not necessarily the whole tree. Is that the one that does that?
I don't know.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe I'm getting the rupestris confused. What's the red? The
red one is, I'm looking at it as we speak.
Yeah,
it's
red.
Brachychiton acerifolius.
And the rupestris is the one with the narrow leafed?
Yeah. And the acerifolius, I assume, by the way, and the picture that I'm looking at, it is completely deciduous.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's bright red flowers.
Yeah.
Probably, and it can be grown here too, but hard to find.
Yeah. It's doable though, because we do have a few.
I want one.
We'll have to find you one. Yes. Okay, my bonus. And this is, once again, if you read up on it, it will say not drought tolerant, but in my experience, it is. And I think I'm going to add 2. They're both in the ginger family. This is Hedychium cornarium. It is the white ginger lily. So it's not where you get ginger, but it is the ginger family. It's very similar to a canna look, but just standard green leaves. We've had it growing on an east wall at work in the ground on a building. So it had some winter protection up against a building. The flowers, when they're fragrant, just one of the top fragrant flowers. Absolutely stunning. We have another one in a pot, was in the greenhouse, and it didn't have good structure to it. And it sort of was like always busting out of its pot. So I moved it outside and it's fine. It doesn't bloom a lot, but when it does, oh my gosh, just picture there's a reason why you could buy a perfume that's white flower scented, because a lot of the white flowers have the same fragrance, gardenias, and then these lilies. Well, not really lilies. They say lilies, but gingers. So there's the Hedychium cornarium, which supposedly loves water, but it could go a long time without water. It has all these rhizomes full of water. Now, along the lines of that is the Alpinia, the variegated ginger, which we have one. And the reason it's on my list is we have one on the north side of the conservatory workroom. So it's on the north side. It gets no direct sun at all. I haven't watered this thing all summer. And it's fine. I've never seen this. I don't think I've ever seen this one bloom though. So if it had a little more sun, it would bloom. But of course, in this heat, some of the foliage would burn. And this one's variegated. So it has this yellow with stripes on it. And so it is possible to grow members of the ginger family outside, protected from the cold, with low water once established. Okay, so Bruce, what do you think about I say Hedychium. How do you pronounce it?
Oh, I say Hedychium, but that means nothing because I say Campanula and you say Campanula.
But as long as neither of us say Cotton Easter, right?
I used to say Cotton Easter.
I mean, it's so cute. I say it. I mean, look at.
But I am Jewish, so
yeah,
I changed it to Cotton Passover.
I will be the first to admit I butcher botanical names, and I'm fine with that. I don't care how people pronounce them, as long as I know what you're talking about. And sometimes even then, I'm like, What are they talking about?
I will say, while we're on the topic of botanical names, I used to be in the Orchid Society, but I'm just too busy to go now. But they'd have like the president of the Orchid Society sitting there trying to pronounce the names. So he'd be saying, "Oh, here's a fine example of Catisadum russellinum," and I'd under my breath say Catisedum russellinum,
Yeah.
you know, just to like say, "Hey guys,
Yeah.
get with the program."
Yeah, I know. I know. And then if you pronounce certain things or you read certain things and you say it, when someone then says something to you, sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what plant
Right.
they're talking about. I'm like,
Well,
what?
yeah.
I almost like say, can you write it down so I can see
I
it?
called it justicia or justicia, and you called it,
Justicia.
and I didn't know what you were saying. And now,
Yeah.
of course, I know that
Yeah.
you're right and I'm
I'm
wrong.
glad it's not just me. That's good. Yeah.
Just
I
try
think it's-
pronouncing French.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Hidicium. It smells wonderful.
I love them.
Yeah. Do you agree that it's somewhat drought tolerant once
Well,
established?
I'm going to say this. I had a Hadicium. I'm going to say it was Elizabeth. It was a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
It bloomed very late in the season, which
Mhm.
was both good and bad. It was so invasive. And to me, that means if it's invasive in one of our gardens, it's probably drought tolerant.
Mm.
But it was, I mean, it went from one little plant to something that was easily 8 feet wide.
Yeah, I mean the patch we had, I could see that, but I think that's where I think you could sort of control it with the irrigation. So say you water that spot,
Right.
but then yes, if you're watering a whole area, yeah, it'll probably go to where the water is at. So maybe grow it in an area where there's even going to be less water.
Right.
You know,
But
if
they
you
are
grew
beautiful.
if you grew it with your drought tolerant plants and it got less water, but then, it does, I think, well, the Hadicium I know got most sun. It didn't get the afternoon sun, and the Alpinia gets no direct sun. It's really grown the Hadicium for the fragrant flowers. I mean, that's it. It's not a pretty plant. The flowers aren't anything incredibly showy. It's just that fragrance is amazing.
Right.
So,
And
that's it for me.
I will say with the Hadiciums, there are a few that are not as vigorous
Mhm.
growers.
Correct.
There's one hybrid called Ann Bishop. I can't find that, but it's supposedly less invasive.
Okay.
And then I've grown Hadicium greenii, which is not green. The
Mhm.
flower is a bright red. Supposedly has a good aroma. I have not been able to smell anything when I stuck my nose right in the flowers, but that's me. But
Well,
what's nice about that one
Mhm.
is the underside of the leaves are a deep red.
Mm.
It's not too tall and it's not too vigorous a grower, although after the flowers, you'll get little plants on the old flower stalk that you can plant or take away because that's the part of it that will
That's the
start to
part.
spread too
Yeah,
much.
I could see that, the falling over. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So those are my plants. It's interesting how we actually did overlap. I was thinking with such a wide sort of really it was an open-ended, just drought tolerant with a tropical
Mhm.
look, and we each have our own idea what tropical look is. But of course, plumeria. I mean, obviously we had to have that, and then the cycads.
Right.
And then the Caesalpinia. That was a surprise that you had that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that what's really interesting is that you can have a completely tropical looking garden that is drought tolerant, and people associate tropical garden with lots and lots of water,
Mhm.
which is a problem
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
like Marlene and I have for several years been working, although we're not on the board anymore, of trying to get a botanical garden established in our area. And we talk about tropical look gardens, and people, suddenly they frown. They say, "Well, that's uses too much water." And we try to explain that not only does it not use too much water, it can be using less water than your typical camellia
Yeah.
flower garden.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. For
So I
sure.
think that's an important thing to know. And some of these flowers are exotic looking, and we associate, like for instance, proteas and the leucospermum, which is the pincushion flower. We associate that with the tropics because that's where you get the flowers from when you get Hawaiian flowers. But they're not tropical. They're actually, if anything, Mediterranean gardeny.
Yep.
But they look exotic. And I think for us, tropical means exotic,
Yep.
big leaves.
Yep. Yeah. And then, yeah, exactly. So we're pulling all the traits from the tropics and then finding plants that follow those traits.
Right.
So possibly you guys have different ideas. So if we've missed one that's completely like, oh my gosh, how could we miss that? Go ahead and let me know on social media, which is Marlene the Plant Lady on Instagram and Facebook, or you could email me at marlenetheplantlady@gmail.com. And make sure to share this podcast, rate and review it. Please do so. On Apple, you could give it a 5-star review. I think on Spotify, you could give it a 5-star review. And then on Apple, if you give it a nice, just say, hey, I really like Bruce and Marlene. It increases the chances of people finding our podcast. And then we could share our knowledge more and people would become better gardeners and not so disappointed. They kill plants. So that's our goal. And until next time, everyone, happy gardening.
See you next time.